Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. I'm so excited I can finally share the news with you. I'll be teaching at Scrapbook.com's SBC Fest this September 13th and 14th. And look at all the super talented instructors. SBC Fest is a free event. You can watch the classes live and chat along with the instructors. But if you're not able to watch it live, no worries, you can always watch the replay. Some people love watching the lives just so they can join in the chat, and then they'll go back later and watch the replay and work on the project. I'm not sharing my projects with you, but I do have a homework video, and if you do your homework, it'll save you a bunch of time. Then you can follow along easily with my class. I have all of the supplies in Scrapbook.com's storage envelopes. For pattern paper, I'll be using the Charming Pattern Paper Collection. This is the 6x8 size. For some of the cards, I will be using some gold mirror paper, and that's part of Scrapbook.com's holographic mirror paper pad. My cards will feature 3 die sets. The first one is called Fall Treats. Now this is not a new set to Scrapbook.com, so maybe you already have it on hand. If you are interested in purchasing the same products that I'm using in my class, I will have all of them linked in the description box, but feel free to use products that you already own. For shape dies, we'll be using the brand new nested Octagon die set. And then the final die set is Bear Hugs, and I believe this was released last year. It has an adorable bear and the sentiment hugs. The nested Octagon die set includes 14 different sizes of octagons. So it's a great set to have in your stash. Now some of the other products I'll be using in my class are optional. For one of the cards, we will be using a small piece of vellum. And I have Scrapbook.com's smooth vellum sheets. I love using vellum on my cards, and you really only need a small piece, maybe 2 by 4 inches. I'll also be using some white pearlescent cardstock. I have Spellbinder's brushed white cardstock, and we'll only need 1 sheet. We'll be making 3 cards in my class, so it helps to have some card bases folded and ready to go. These are all A2 size cards. 2 of them will be horizontal and 1 will be vertical. And I like to do the fold on the top, whether it's horizontal or vertical. I will be popping up some of the elements on my cards. For foam dimension, I'm using Scrapbook.com's small and also large foam squares, both of them in the 1 millimeter thickness. I love Scrapbook.com's foam, but you can definitely use whatever foam you have on hand. I'm not showing it in the video, but you will need a paper trimmer and also a die cutting machine. For most of the die cut pieces, I'm using Spellbinder's Platinum Scout in the rose quartz color, and this is exclusive to Scrapbook.com. For some of the larger die cut pieces, I'll use my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. We will be doing some ink blending. I'm using Scrapbook.com's small size blending brushes, and you'll need at least 5 since we're using 5 different ink colors. And I have all of the brushes stored in Scrapbook.com's tool caddy. We will be using one of Scrapbook.com's glitter brushes. This is the chocolate color. It's a beautiful brown color and it's super sparkly. If you've never tried Scrapbook.com's glitter brushes before, I highly recommend them. I use the clear the most, but they have a fun assortment of colors. Other tools you'll need, these are just essential craft tools, so whatever you normally use. For adhesive, I'll be using Scrapbook.com's deluxe adhesive roller. A pair of reverse tweezers will be super handy. You'll need a pair of scissors. I have Scrapbook.com's medium straight in the 5-inch size. And you'll also want some sort of embellishment wand. I'm using Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool, and we'll be using the wax tip end and also the piercing tip end. Very essential for popping out all those die cut pieces. A few other essentials. You'll want some sort of liquid adhesive. I have scrapbook.com's Artiste glue, and I know the label has completely worn off on my bottle. Some of the die cut pieces will be adhering are fairly small, so I have the ultra fine tip on my Artiste glue bottle. For embellishments, I have the clear pops of color. A roll of mint tape will be handy to hold the dies onto the pattern paper and cardstock. And here are the 5 ink colors I'll be using. All of them are Ranger Distress Oxide inks. Scattered Straw, Rusty Hinge, Vintage Photo, Chipped Sapphire, and Rustic Wilderness. So again, if you don't have these exact colors, you can look for similar colors that you already own. I'll just pop all of these essential tools back in my little storage bin from scrapbook.com. Here are all of the papers you'll need from the charming 6x8 paper pad. If you purchase this in the A2 size, you will need more. And the colored cardstock we'll be using for the layers is all included in the charming paper pad. So we'll need 2 pieces of the dark blue solid, 2 pieces of the dark green solid, 1 sheet of soft orange. We'll need the blue tone-on-tone pattern. We'll actually need 2 of them. The opposite side has this light blue background with beautiful flowers. We'll need 2 sheets of the yellow tone-on-tone pattern paper, 1 sheet of the light green with small flowers, and 1 sheet of the white with blue flowers. We'll be using the front and back of a couple of those sheets. For card number 1, the pattern paper and solids you'll need the yellow tone-on-tone, the light blue with floral, the blue tone-on-tone, soft orange, dark green, and a sheet of the dark blue. Plus you'll need a little bit of the gold mirror specialty paper. To help save a lot of time on my class, I'll share the cutting measurements with you. The dark blue layer is 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch, and the blue floral paper is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. You'll also need a narrow strip of the solid green. This piece is 1/2 inch by 5 1/4 inches. So you can write down those measurements, maybe do a screenshot. That way you'll be all ready to go for my class in September. And if you want to save even more time, you can go ahead and do a little bit of die cutting. You'll need 3 octagons from the blue tone-on-tone paper. And the octagon die size I use is the 1/3 out from the center. And I'll show that here in a moment. You'll need 3 flowers from the yellow tone-on-tone paper, 3 centers from the flower using that soft orange paper, and 3 small leaves using the dark green solid. The inside of the flower piece is that tiny flower on the Bear Hugs die set, and the leaf die is from the Fall Treat set. So here I'm showing you the octagon that you'll need. So it's the 1/3 out from the very center. Whenever I mention the size of the nested octagon, I'm counting out from the very center. So the smallest octagon is number 1, the next one would be 2nd out from the center, and then so on. So I don't want to give away everything from the class, but this will save you a lot of time. So now let's move on to card number 2. The pattern paper and solids you'll need: 1 sheet of dark blue, 1 sheet of dark green, 1 sheet of the soft orange, 1 sheet of the yellow tone-on-tone, 1 sheet of the blue tone-on-tone, 1 sheet of the green with the small flowers. We will be using front and back. I didn't mention it earlier, but you'll also want some white cardstock in addition to the cardstock for your card bases. This card will also feature a little bit of the white pearlescent cardstock. So now let's move on to the cutting measurements for card 2. The dark green background piece will be 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches. The floral and also the plaid paper are the same size, 5.25 inches by 4 inches. And we'll also need a narrow strip of the dark blue solid. This is 3/8 of an inch wide by 6 inches. Pause there for a moment. You can write down those measurements or do a screenshot. Now we'll move on to the die cut pieces you'll need for card 2. And I have my die cut pieces organized in scrapbook.com's stack and sort trays. We'll need a white octagon, and the size we're using is the 9th out from the center. And I used the solid white cardstock. This is not the white pearlescent cardstock. And I'm just holding up the die on the die cut to verify it is the 9th size out from the center. And here are the other die cuts using the yellow tone-on-tone pattern for the donut, the soft orange for the icing on the donut, the blue tone-on-tone for the mug. We will be adding a flower, and the light blue color is from the floral. Some of that background is that pretty blue. Just make sure to cut it out so you don't get any of the floral images. We'll need a small yellow piece for the center and 2 leaves from the dark green solid, one of the larger leaves and also a smaller leaf. And using the white pearlescent cardstock, we'll cut out the whipped cream. And here's that teeny tiny yellow center for the flower, and I use more of the yellow tone-on-tone pattern paper. Now we'll move on to the final card, number 3. Start with the pattern paper and solids you'll need. 1 sheet of dark blue, 1 sheet of the dark green, 1 sheet of the soft orange, a sheet of yellow tone-on-tone, a sheet of the blue tone-on-tone, and also a sheet of the white with blue flowers. We will be using the front and back side. This card will also need a little bit of the gold mirror paper, some white cardstock, and some white pearlescent cardstock. And here are the measurements for card 3. The dark blue layer is 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches, so a full A2 size. And all 3 of the pattern paper strips are the same size, 5.25 inches by 1.25 inches. So go ahead and write down those measurements or do your screenshot. Then we'll move on to the die cuts you'll need for card 3. For this card, we need 3 octagons. The dark green and tone-on-tone yellow octagons will be the same size. And these are the 9th out from the center. So same size as the previous card. I'll pull out the nested octagon set again just to verify it is the 9th out from the center. We'll also need a dark blue octagon. This size is the 7th out from the center. As I mentioned earlier in the video, all of the solid cardstock is part of the charming paper pad. So sometimes you have to find those little areas for that perfect color. This floral paper with the light blue background has plenty of areas where you can cut out some of the small flowers, and we will be using a light blue flower. For the bear image, you'll cut out all 3 of the pieces from the yellow tone-on-tone paper. For the cupcake, we're using the yellow tone-on-tone. For the icing of the cupcake, we'll use the soft orange. For the cupcake wrapper, I'm using the gold holographic paper. I know I showed the gold mirror paper, but I did end up cutting it out of the gold holographic paper. But you can use whichever one you want. We'll also need 2 leaves from the dark green solid, a small flower from the dark blue. I did use a tiny scrap piece of black cardstock for the bear's eyes and nose. For the inside of the bear's ear, I'm using the back side of the yellow tone-on-tone pattern paper. There's those little areas inside that grid, and I thought it was the perfect color for the inside of the bear's ear. And if you're wondering about what we're doing for a sentiment, all 3 cards will have the sentiment hugs. And of course, you can change this up if you prefer a different sentiment. Using the outline shadow piece, we'll need 4. 1 from soft orange, 1 from vellum, 1 from dark blue, and 1 from the white pearlescent cardstock. And for 2 of the sentiment, we'll have that little outline frame, 1 from dark green, 1 from white pearlescent. And 1 card will be using just the individual letters, and I use white cardstock for those. So that's all I'm going to show for my card class. If you do the homework, it'll save you a ton of time. And if you are interested in any of the products I'll be using in my class, including the tools, I do have them linked in the description box below. I also have a link for my bundle, and that includes the Charming Paper Pad, the Nested Octagons, Fall Treats, and also the Bear Hugs die set. I also have a link for the information page about SBC Fest, so you can check out the other instructors, their homework videos, supplies they're using. That way you'll be all ready to go. I'm super excited to be teaching at Scrapbook.com's SBC Fest this September 13th and 14th, and I hope you'll join me there. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.